This is part 4, electrical stimulation physiology. The question 1 is, in your own words, explain the impacts of subsensory, sensory, and motor level E-stim on the inflammatory process. So electrical stimulation helps with the inflammatory process based on the 3 stimulations, so the subsensory, sensory, and the motor. Also, I wrote my notes off to the side so I didn't lose my train of thought. So when dealing with subsensory, first, the sensation that you feel, you don't really feel it. It's very not noticeable. I think this is used early on in the inflammatory process. This is to help with like cellular repair and ATP production, promote tissue healing. This would be something that I think you would use this on someone who is early on, like after 72 hours, just to help kickstart that inflammatory process. The sensory level stimulation is more of like a tingling, like right before a muscle contraction, but you don't quite get there yet. This is to help reduce pain, and I also read that it also helped with swelling by improving circulation. I don't really know how accurate those studies are, but it also talked about how this also activates the gate control theory by blocking pain receptors, the signals. I think it was like through A beta fibers, but yeah, it's just helpful. But let me backtrack for a second. This can be helpful for the inflammatory process because it doesn't keep them in that pain. I think it's the pain spasm cycle. And it allows them to break that cycle so that the inflammatory process actually kickstarts and goes through. And then lastly was the motor level stimulation. So this is where you actually get the visible muscle contraction. And this is to help with like swelling or edema. It's more important. It's more like I personally would say that this stimulation is more important in later parts of inflammation. As you get the muscle engagement, you also want that stimulation to occur after the healing is done. So this is more like late proliferation to kind of break those adhesions and get the muscle like contracting and moving the way that it's supposed to. In your own words, explain the impacts of sensory, motor, both high and low, and noxious level E-stim on pain. Electrical stimulation helps with our pain perception and depends on intensity and frequency of the stimulation. So talking about what's noted up in the question about sensory, motor, and noxious levels specifically. Starting off with the sensory level E-stim. This is where you have your sensory fibers that get activated. It is right before you get like a muscle contraction, but it should kind of feel like a tingling sensation. The goal of this is to block pain signals through the gate control theory. And so providing temporary pain relief is how that happens. Through the motor levels, you have the low frequency and the high frequency. The low frequency is the activation of your motor fibers. And this is where you get the actual muscle contraction. Due to this muscular contraction, you get the release of chemicals that kind of help provide a temporary pain relief. through your body's like natural mechanisms, I guess is a way to put it. The high frequency is a more aggressive, like muscular contraction of your muscles. And this is to kind of like, the goal of this is to help with pain via reducing muscular spasms. Usually, so with high and low, you'll usually see it between like 2 to 10 PPS, whereas like the high frequency, you'll see it closer to like 30 to 50. It's just dependent on patient and again, what they can tolerate. And lastly, where's my train? Noxious level E-stim. This is where you get the activation of most of your fibers. So when dealing with pain stimulation, this is a much more aggressive version of your motor your motor level E-stim. So this is the activation of your C fibers and your A delta fibers. It can be painful, but it's then again controlled through the descending mechanism that releases the enkephalin down to block, scratch that. It activates the descending mechanism of pain by sending chemicals down to block the pain signal. And the method of this is used more particularly for chronic pain and trigger points. So those are the two main goals. The goal of this, the noxious, is not very common. It's not very seen a lot, but the pain control can also be through the opiate release mechanism, which again is seen through high frequency motor level E-stim, or low frequency, I apologize.